Hey there, smartwatch fans. Today, we're diving into the world of the Huawei Watch GT5 Pro, a
Ooh,
smartwatch that's making waves with its rugged design and impressive battery life. But is it all hype, or does this watch have the goods to compete with the big dogs like Apple and Samsung? We've got a stack of reviews here, and let's just say they don't hold back.
oh
So
well.
buckle up, it's time for a deep
I
dive.
am so ready for this one. Sounds like we've got some strong opinions and juicy details to dissect.
Oh, we definitely do. The review we're focusing on today is for the 46mm model, which comes with a titanium body, very premium. They did mention there's also a 42mm ceramic version for those who prefer something a little sleeker. But let's talk titanium for a second. I mean, this isn't your grandma's stainless steel, right?
Absolutely not. Titanium is in a league of its own when it comes to watches.
Mhm.
It's incredibly strong, but also super lightweight. Think about it. You could bang this watch around for years. It'll probably come out looking pretty much the same. Think about it. Compare that to some aluminum watches out there, which can get scratched or dinged up way easier.
Yeah, the reviewer wasn't shy about putting it through its paces. They even mentioned that despite having what they called anorexic toddler wrists,
Oh my.
their words, not mine, the 46mm size wasn't an issue. But it wasn't just the size they commented on, it was that eye-catching octagonal bezel. It's definitely a statement piece.
It's certainly a bold design choice. Most smartwatches we see these days play it safe with a classic round or square face. So this octagonal bezel really makes the GT5 Pro stand out. It's like Huawei took a look at the smartwatch scene and said, we're doing things our own way.
And honestly, I kind of love that. It's like the maverick of the smartwatch world. But speaking of doing things differently, this watch is seriously tough. Like IQ69K water resistant tough. What does that even mean? Can I take this thing scuba diving?
Okay, so, well, I wouldn't recommend taking it on a deep sea expedition. That IP69K rating means business. Most smartwatches are water resistant to a degree, enough for a swim or a run in the rain. But this is like the superhero of water resistance. We're talking high pressure jets, high temperatures, think industrial strength stuff. So yeah, a little dip in the pool is nothing for this watch.
Okay, that's impressive. It sounds like this watch is built for someone who's always on the move, maybe a little bit adventurous.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of durability, let's not forget about that sapphire screen. Now this is where things get interesting for anyone who's ever cracked their smartwatch screen, myself included, sadly.
Oh, don't remind me. Heartbreaking, isn't it?
The worst. But with sapphire crystal, you're getting one of the toughest screen materials out there. It's way more scratch resistant than your typical Gorilla Glass. So you can bet that this screen can take a beating and still look brand new.
So basically, if you're prone to dropping your watch, bumping into things, or generally living life on the edge, the GT5 Pro is ready to be your trusty sidekick.
Exactly. But a smartwatch is more than just a pretty, or in this case, ruggedly handsome face. It's about what's under the hood, too. And that leads us to the software side of things, which, judging by the review, is where things get a little interesting.
Oh boy, does it ever. Because this watch runs on Harmony OS, Huawei's own operating system. And it sounds like the reviewer had some thoughts. Strong thoughts. Let's just say they didn't hold back.
Well, then let's dive into the world of Harmony OS and see what all the fuss is about.
Let's do it. All right, so we're talking Harmony OS, Huawei's own operating system. Now, I consider myself pretty tech savvy, but I'll admit I'm more familiar with Wear OS, which is what you'll find on a lot of smartwatches these days, and of course WatchOS for Apple users. So what's the deal with Harmony OS? Is it a worthy contender, or is it a case of tried it, didn't love it?
Well, the reviewer definitely had some strong opinions. And I think it boils down to priorities. Harmony OS is all about efficiency. Imagine a smartwatch that sips battery life like a fine wine instead of chugging it like a college student at a party. That's Harmony OS in a nutshell.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but what's the catch? Because I'm sensing a but coming.
You know me too well. The trade-off is that the app selection is more limited compared to something like Wear OS, which has a massive app library. It's not bare bones, but don't expect to find every single app you use on your phone.
So it's like the minimalist's smartwatch. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Exactly. And that extends to the user experience as well. The reviewer mentioned that watch faces are decent and plenty of options to personalize your style, but notifications are very basic, especially compared to what you'd get on a Wear OS device.
That's interesting. I feel like notifications are one of those things you don't realize you rely on until they're not there.
Right. Like being able to quickly respond to a text or dismiss an email from your wrist. It's all about convenience. And speaking of convenience, or rather the lack thereof, let's talk about the voice assistant situation. The reviewer did not mince words about their experience with Celia. Huawei's voice assistant.
Oh yeah, that was brutal. I think they compared it to talking to a brick wall.
Pretty much. They weren't impressed. And it highlights a key point. Even the most advanced voice assistant is only as good as the ecosystem it's built on. And it highlights a key point. Celia just doesn't have the same level of support as something like Google Assistant or Siri. And it highlights a key point. So it's going to be a more limited experience.
Makes sense. And it sounds like even basic tasks, like trying to type out a message on that tiny on-screen keyboard, were a recipe for frustration. The reviewer made it sound like trying to perform open-heart surgery with a butter knife.
Yeah, that's a pretty accurate depiction of trying to type on any small smartwatch screen, to be honest. It's just not ideal for lengthy messages or complex interactions.
Okay, so maybe not the best for the hyper-connected, always messaging type, but you know what? There's something refreshing about a device that encourages you to disconnect a little.
I agree. It's like a digital detox on your wrist. And let's be real, sometimes the biggest distraction is ourselves. But hey, if you're looking for a watch that can last through a week-long wilderness retreat without needing a charge, well, the Huawei Watch GT5 Pro might just be your new best friend.
Wait, did you say a week? As in 7 whole days? Because my current smartwatch can barely make it through a day and a half without begging for its charger.
You heard that right. The reviewer raved about the battery life, claiming a full week of use with everything turned on, even the always-on display. And get this, if you're willing to switch to battery saver mode, you might even squeeze out 2 weeks on a single charge.
2 weeks? Okay, that's seriously impressive. How do they even do that? What kind of battery sorcery is this?
Well, remember how we talked about HarmonyOS being all about efficiency? That extends to the battery life as well. By streamlining the software, limiting background processes, and optimizing performance, Huawei has managed to achieve some seriously impressive battery longevity.
It's like they looked at the smartwatch world, where everyone's scrambling for a few more hours of juice, and said, "Hold my charging cable."
Exactly. But as with all things in life, it comes down to priorities. Are you willing to sacrifice some app availability and notification features for that incredible battery life?
That's a million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, for someone like me who's constantly tethered to their phone anyway, maybe those trade-offs are worth it. But for someone who relies heavily on their smartwatch for communication and app integration, it might be a deal breaker. Speaking of priorities, let's talk about fitness tracking. Because for a lot of people, that's a major reason they even wear a smartwatch in the first place.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where the GT5 Pro really leans into its Pro moniker, offering a seriously impressive suite of fitness tracking features. We're talking about everything from your standard step counting and sleep tracking to more advanced metrics like heart rate variability, blood oxygen levels, and even ECG functionality.
Wow, they really went all out. And what about sports tracking? Does it cover the basics, or does it get into the nitty-gritty for the data nerds out there?
Oh, it definitely caters to the data lovers. The reviewer was blown away by the sheer variety of sports tracked, from the usual suspects like running, cycling, and swimming, to more niche activities like golf, skiing, and even triathlons.
Okay, that's pretty comprehensive.
Uh-huh.
But it's not just about the quantity of sports tracked, it's about the quality of the data, right? I mean, I've worn some fitness trackers that seemed to think I was running a marathon when I was just walking to the fridge for a snack.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
But the GT5 Pro seems to be in a different league. The reviewer, who's a pretty serious runner themselves, was really impressed with the accuracy and depth of the running metrics. We're talking about things like cadence, ground contact time, vertical oscillation stuff that even I, with my limited running experience, know is important for improving form and performance.
Okay, for those of us who don't speak fluent runner, what do those metrics even mean? And how can they help the average person improve their workouts?
Great question. So cadence is basically how many steps you're taking per minute. And studies have shown that increasing your cadence can actually make you a more efficient runner. Ground contact time is exactly what it sounds like, how long your foot is in contact with the ground on each stride, and shorter contact times are generally associated with a more efficient and less injury-prone running style. And then you've got vertical oscillation, which is basically how much you're bouncing up and down as you run. Ideally, you want to minimize this vertical movement to conserve energy and reduce stress on your joints.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's amazing how much data these smartwatches can capture and how that information can be used to improve our workouts. But it's also important to remember that these are still consumer devices, not medical-grade equipment.
Absolutely. While the GT5 Pro offers some impressive health and fitness tracking capabilities, it's crucial to use them responsibly and not rely on them solely for medical diagnoses or treatment.
Always good to have that reminder. So it sounds like the Huawei Watch GT5 Pro is a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to software and features. It's got some serious strengths that battery life alone is a game changer. but also some limitations, particularly for those who are deeply embedded in a particular app ecosystem.
Exactly. It's about understanding what you value most in a smartwatch and whether those priorities align with what the GT5 Pro offers. It's not trying to be all things to all people, and that's okay.
I like that. It's like the smartwatch equivalent of marching to the beat of your own drum.
But one thing we haven't really touched on yet is the elephant in the room, or rather the missing app store on this watch.
Ah, yes. The walled garden of Harmony OS. That's definitely a key consideration for anyone used to the vast app libraries of Wear OS or Watch OS. Let's unpack that a bit further, shall we?
Let's do it. So we've talked about the good, that amazing battery life and a seriously tough design.
Right.
But we got to talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say the missing app store on this thing. Yeah, the Huawei Watch GT5 Pro runs on Harmony OS, which means no Google Play Store, no Apple App Store.
And isn't that a deal breaker for a lot of people? Like, apps are how we do it all on our smartwatches these days. Tracking workouts, listening to music.
Absolutely. It's a trade-off, no doubt. The reviewer we looked at said the app selection was seriously limited, especially compared to what you get on other smartwatches.
So what can you actually get then?
You've got your basics, like a weather app, a timer, even a music player.
Okay, so not totally bare bones.
Right, but don't go looking for your favorite fitness apps or social media or mobile payment options, that kind of stuff.
Oh, no mobile payments at all. See, that'd be a deal breaker for me. I use that constantly.
Yeah, the reviewer wasn't thrilled about that either. Felt like a step backwards for such an advanced watch otherwise.
It's like they focused on some things but totally forgot about others.
I think it comes back to priorities. Huawei went all in on battery and durability.
And something had to give.
Seems like it. So it's a trade-off. Marathon battery, but maybe not as much speed when it comes to those smart features.
Makes sense. So I guess it all boils down to what you, our listeners, are looking for.
Exactly.
Do you need a smartwatch that can keep up with your crazy life?
Or are you okay with something a little simpler?
That prioritizes different things.
Like incredible battery life.
And a seriously tough design.
That can take a beating.
The Huawei Watch GT5 Pro is one of a kind, that's for sure.
That might not be for everyone.
But it's definitely shaking things up in the smartwatch world.
That it is.
We've explored the good,
the bad,
and the just plain interesting.
When it comes to this unique device.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep diving deeper
into the world of tech.